and play on 2nd and 10. That's his youth right there.
Tagovailoa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins!
So today I'll be filming my college football 2026 preseason rankings. So I've got Miami at 1 and Texas Tech at 2, not because I think that these are the two best teams, but because they're the two teams that I have going undefeated in the regular season and winning their conferences. And I chose Miami for number 1 and not Texas Tech because even though I still think that the Big 12 is a little bit better overall of a conference than the ACC is, Miami has a lot more 4- and 5-star players on their roster than Texas Tech does, and going by my predictions, they would have had a better win than Texas Tech because I have Miami beating Notre Dame in the regular season, and BYU would be Texas Tech's best win going by my predictions in the Big 12 championship, a team that I have losing to Notre Dame in the regular season. And I've got Ole Miss at 3 and Texas at 4 because I have Ole Miss beating Texas in the SEC championship and also having a slightly better record than Texas. Ole Miss being 12-1 and Texas being 11-2. But I have Ohio State at 5 because even though I have them having the same record as Texas and winning their conference and Texas not winning their conference, I have Texas winning the regular season matchup with Ohio State because it's a home game. So that's why I have Texas ranked ahead of Ohio State, even though I do think that Ryan Day is actually a little bit better of a head coach than Steve Sarkisian is right now. But I have Indiana at 6 behind Ohio State because even though I have Indiana with a slightly better overall record than Ohio State and having beat them in the regular season, I have Ohio State just beating Indiana in the Big Ten championship and what matters more. So I've got Oregon at 7 because even though if you saw my short from the other day, I have them winning the whole thing. I do think they would be 7 in the playoffs going by my predictions because I have them losing the regular season matchup with Ohio State because it's on the road, but I do think they would be ahead of Notre Dame, who I've got at 8 because they have the same record as Notre Dame going by my predictions, and Notre Dame plays a weaker schedule than Oregon does. So I've got Notre Dame ranked ahead of Houston because while they have the same record at 11-1 going by my predictions, Houston doesn't have near as many 4- and 5-star players on their roster as Notre Dame has got, and I've got Alabama at 10 and Georgia at 11 behind Houston because while I do think that both Alabama and Georgia, especially Georgia, are better than Houston because Houston has the better overall record than Alabama and Georgia do going by my predictions. I do think the AP would rank Houston ahead of both of them. So I've got Alabama at 10 and 2 and Georgia at 11 at 10 and 2 because I have Alabama winning the regular season matchup between Alabama and Georgia because it's going to be played in Tuscaloosa. Otherwise, I'd probably pick Georgia in that one because I do think that Georgia is actually a better team than Alabama and a real top 10 team. And I've got Boise State at 12 because I have them being the one now group of 6 team to make the college football playoff. because I have them winning the new Pac-12 conference at 12-1. The only loss I have them having is in the opener to Oregon, because Boise State does have a good amount coming back. 13 starters, 7 on offense, 6 on defense, and 57% of their production, including quarterback Maddox Madsen, and 3 starting offensive linemen, and their head coach Spencer Danielson, except for probably Dan Mullen over at UNLV, is now I'd say the best group of 6 head coach, and is probably a Power 4 head coach after this season is over. So I've got BYU at 13 because, while I do have them going 11-2, I think they get left out of the college football playoff again because I have them losing to the 2 best teams that they would have played, Notre Dame in the regular season and then Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship, in games that I don't think will be that close. And I've got Washington at 14, because even though I didn't do a video for them, I have them beating Penn State, who I've got at 15 at 10-2, because Washington returns 65% of their production, which is a whole lot, including quarterback Damon Williams, who's a top 10 quarterback in college football. He threw for over 3,000 yards and ran for over 600 yards last season. And Jed Fish is a top 20 head coach in college football, and they've got Ryan Walters coming back at defensive coordinator, who's I think one of the best in the country. So I've got Penn State at 15, and these 4 SEC teams at 16 through 19, because I think the AP would go by record. And I've got Penn State at 10-2, and all 4 of those SEC teams at 9-3. Even though I think all 4 of those SEC teams would beat Penn State, because the only reason I think Penn State will have a better record than them is because their schedule is so much weaker than all 4 of those SEC teams. But I have the SEC teams ranked in the order I do because Oklahoma I have beating Texas A&M. And they don't play Tennessee or LSU, but I do have Texas A&M beating LSU, and I also have Tennessee beating LSU. Except Lane Kiffin is going to get some more help because Xavier Harris, who was his best run stopper at Ole Miss last season, won a court case to return to college after already being drafted in the NFL, and has decided to team up with Lane Kiffin again. So I've got SMU at 20 because even though they will have one extra win at 10-3 than those 9-3 SEC teams will, I do think that loss in the ACC championship will be enough to make up for that because of how much better the SEC is than the ACC. But I do still think they'd be higher than Clemson and Virginia Tech with that extra win, because I have Clemson and Virginia Tech both at 9-3. But I have Clemson at 21 and Virginia Tech at 22 because I have Clemson winning the regular season matchup with Virginia Tech. So I've got Michigan at 23 and USC at 24. And you probably wonder how I decided who to put ahead of the other when I picked them both to go 8-4, and they're in the same conference and they don't play each other this year. Well, it's because Kyle Whittingham is 3-0 in 2 years against Lincoln Riley, and that was at Utah with a bunch of 3-star players, and now at Michigan with a bunch of 4- and 5-star players. Just imagine what all he would do to USC. And I put Arizona at 25 because even though I wasn't able to get to a prediction video for them, I do like the coaching staff that they have coming back, that they won 9 games with last year, and they do return a good bit of their production at 60%, including quarterback Noah Fafita, who is certainly a top 10 quarterback in college football and probably the best quarterback that Arizona has ever had.